Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira, and today I want to talk about hearing from God. And I know for me, I grew up in church, but learning how to hear God in my own life for myself. Because to be honest, when I first accepted Jesus into my life, at 14 years old, I had no idea how to hear from him. But there were times where I just have these thoughts and I was like, I know those aren't for me. And so I kind of wanted to share how to hear from God / how to know that he's speaking to you. And actually one passage that I found that I wanted to share is Matthew 13, and then starting in verse 16. So it says, but blessed are your ears because they see, and but blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous men longed to see what you have seen, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in his heart. Verse 23, but the one who received the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. He produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what is sown. And I love this because as I was trying to look for this video, verses that talk about hearing, I saw this and I think it's so intuitive. Like, we can want to hear from God, and like in verse 19, we can hear it, but if we don't understand it, the enemy can come and take it from us. And there are people who long to hear, and I think the most beautiful thing is Jesus is talking to us. And one of my friends reminded me today that the reason why God whispers is because he's close. He doesn't need to yell in our ear. And I think if we understand, like, God speaks to us to share because he loves us immensely, and he can do that by speaking to us and giving us insight and wisdom. And so, how do you hear from God? How do you create a space to hear from him? And I think for myself, get in a place where there is not a ton of things vying for your attention. I know for myself, it's hard to hear God when I'm busy, when I'm in the midst of schoolwork, when I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of noise, when I have 30 things to do on my to-do list and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get them all done. One of the reasons why I do my Bible reading in the morning is because I don't let myself think about school or work or anything until I finish that time. And that's because I don't let the engines of my brain start revving up and saying this is everything you need to do today, because that's detrimental to hearing from God. If you already have so much packed in your mind, how on earth are you gonna hear him over all that? And so I believe he will speak to you over that, but if you want to create an environment for your soul to listen, you need to be still. You need to find rest. You need to sincerely just be at a place where you can just listen for his voice and his voice alone. And going forward, like, how do you know if it's God? And to that I would say, I'm still figuring that out. I'm not perfect, but I think one thing is to really, if you think you hear from God, and how I normally hear from God is it's just like a thought, but like that thought comes into my brain and all the other thoughts that are in my head kind of like move back into the background and become fuzzy. And that's the best way I can describe it, but when that happens, I'm like, I know this is God. And sometimes I get it wrong, but sometimes I get it right. And sometimes it's stepping out in faith and being like, God, I don't know if this is what you said, but I felt like you're saying go over and pray for this person, so that's what I'm going to do. And if it turns out that's not what you had, at least I tried. But how are we going to know if it's his voice unless we try to follow through? Now, what God tells you should be in line with who he is in his word. and what he says in here, because God is constant and God is loving, and the fruits of the Spirit are a great way. Fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And what he tells you will be in line with those things. And sometimes you might be like, this is absolutely crazy, or I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but it can still be God. And I think the biggest encouragement I can give you is God is a way maker. That if he calls you to something, he will equip you for it, and you can pray through it, you can fast through it, you can say, God, I'm at the end of myself, I've done everything to see this through, and I don't know what else to do. And I just want to encourage you that if it seems crazy and you're like, I don't know how on earth that will happen, that's okay. It's bigger than yourself. It's meant to be. God's going to call you beyond yourself. And I love Ephesians 3:20, where it talks about God being able to do more than you can ever imagine or request in your wildest dreams. And what if we lived like that? What if we lived beyond what we can imagine and said, God, I don't know how, but I know you can. And I think living a life of abundance, and we can read his word, but we can also be Spirit-led in life, where we feel the Holy Spirit at work inside of us, nudging us to go talk to people, nudging us to prophesy something over someone. And it's beautiful what happens when we get to be in a relationship with God and do that. And it's a dance. And there's a song that says it's a dance, and sometimes it's a little messy because I miss a few steps. But God is gracious and he is loving, and he realizes that we're learning, and he will gently correct us. And I just want to encourage you, if you're trying to decipher whether it's God, pray on it. He wants you to understand. He doesn't want you to feel like, I have no idea if this is him or not. No, he'll give you clarity. And another thing I love to do is, especially if it's a big decision or choice, is I'll go to one of my trusted friends or a mentor or someone who is following after God as well, and say, this is what I feel like God told me. Do you think that's true? Or ask God to confirm it. I've had so many times where I've felt something in my heart, and then that same day someone comes up to me and says something exactly like what I thought God spoke to me. And so pray for clarity. It's okay. He's not gonna judge you for asking. He wants you to know. It says, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open. If you're asking for clarity in something you thought he told you, he'll do it. And don't be afraid to step out and to look a little crazy for the gospel sometimes, because it does happen. And I've had instances where I'm like, God, if this wasn't you who told me to do this, and it doesn't go through like how I think, I'm gonna look like a fool. And that's okay. And realizing that sometimes we're called to live, a lot of the time, most of the time, we are called to live beyond what we can understand, and God calls us to more. And so it's up to us, it's a choice to step out beyond and into what he's called us to do. And that can be lifelong, or it can just be in a moment, but those choices add up. And then I think about so many times in my life how I've followed what God said, and it's led to unimaginably more joy, and just feeling like, wow, I am truly living in what God has for me and living the God dream. And so I just encourage you that as you step out trying to hear God, pray, ask him to speak to you, and just give him space to speak. Because sometimes I can get so caught up in chatting at him that I don't ever let him respond. Friendships don't work very well if you're the only one talking and you don't let them respond. And how much more true with God. So I just encourage you this week that you can just be still and listen and hear what he has to say to you, because he loves you immensely, and he has plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future with a hope. And I know that he is at work in each of you. And Philippians 1:6 says that he who has begun a good work in you will see it to a flourishing finish. And I love you guys so much. Hope this is an encouragement. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any comments on how you hear God, or anything you want to add, please drop them down below in the comment section. I love you guys so much. Have a great week. God bless.